Jurors have reached a sentence for the man convicted of killing a San Diego police officer. We'll tell you if they're recommending Jesse Gomez get the death penalty. Plus, fighting the vaccine mandate, the pushback from a Camp Pendleton Marine, and the penalties he could face if he doesn't comply. And two local chefs living out their dreams, the Positively San Diego story about their journeys to the Michelin star.
ABC 10 News at 6 starts now.
Well, after days of deliberations, the jury has made a sentencing decision for convicted cop killer Jesse Gomez. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Atkinson. Gomez shot and killed Officer J.D. de Guzman back in 2016 and wounded another officer. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo is live at the courthouse with the highly anticipated decision. Laura.
Steve, that's right. And after deliberating, the jury recommended the death penalty unanimously. Gomez sat emotionless as the judge read that decision from the jury. Now, as you mentioned, Gomez shot and killed San Diego police officer Jonathan J.D. de Guzman more than 5 years ago. While the judge was reading down the line, asking the jurors to confirm that they were in fact in agreement with the death penalty, you could hear a number of people emotional, crying as that judge asked those jurors those questions. A member of the defense team also fought back tears the entire time. Gomez was convicted just over 2 weeks ago. He shot Officer J.D. de Guzman multiple times as he sat in his squad car back in 2016. He also shot J.D.'s partner, Wade Irwin, in the neck. Now, Gomez did testify during his trial, saying that he did not realize the two men that were approaching him were law enforcement officers. And within the last hour, we do have a statement from San Diego Police Chief David Nislight that I will read to you. It reads in part, San Diego PD family have looked forward to the day where the defendant would be held accountable for his heinous crimes. That statement goes on to continue to say, we will never forget the sacrifice they and JD made in service to our community. So again, that reaction from the San Diego Police Department coming within the last hour. We will have more for you at 7 o'clock. Reporting live from the courthouse, Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
My main fear would be that myself, along with many others, won't be able to carry out their service.
With the deadlines looming for the military vaccine mandate, this Camp Pendleton Marine has begun his own battle against that requirement. As our ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chen tells us, the Marine may have a painful decision to make if he's not granted an exemption.
Camp Pendleton Marine Lance Corporal Matthew Northcutt enlisted more than 2 years ago.
I wanted to be a Marine ever since I was a child. And the reality is that, I may not be one.
At issue, the military vaccine mandate. For Marines, the deadline is late November. Northcutt, a Baptist, will be applying for a religious exemption. While Pfizer once used a stem cell line to confirm lab testing, many religious leaders have called the connection to abortion remote.
To me, that would mean that it's related and that it's linked to that, and I just can't abide by that.
Regardless of whether his exemption is granted, Northcutt plans to file a federal lawsuit in the coming weeks, asking for an injunction against the mandate.
To me, it's not necessarily just about myself, it's about everyone.
He and others have argued the FDA-approved Pfizer vaccine, licensed under the name Comirnaty, isn't available yet. The FDA has said Comirnaty is identical to the shot that received emergency use authorization, but Northcutt says none of the current vaccines should be mandated.
What I guess I am opposed to as an individual is a mandate for a vaccine that is still largely new.
However his lawsuit turns out, the decision of Northcutt's exemption could come in about a month. If it isn't approved, he'll have to decide between his love of the Marines and his faith.
Ultimately, I would have to go with my personal values and my personal morals, because I don't know about others, but personally, I can't betray what I feel.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
And as of last week, 1.2 million service members have been fully vaccinated. The Pentagon says about 90% of active duty members are now fully vaccinated. Today was the deadline for all healthcare workers in California to get the vaccine. Last month, the state updated its order, saying that all healthcare employees must get the shot rather than giving them the option to submit a negative test. Workers still do have the option to submit a medical or religious exemption.
How could you kill my beautiful, loving sister? You are an animal. You deserve to be locked up forever like a diseased animal.
Also tonight, the Poway Synagogue shooter was formally sentenced today to life in prison without the possibility of parole, but not before he sat and listened to those emotional statements from the victims, including loved ones of Lori Kay. She was the woman he killed when he opened fire on the Chabad of Poway in April of 2019. Our ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena was at the courthouse this morning as those people finally got the chance to speak to John Earnest directly. Lindsay.
They did, Steve. If you recall, there was no trial in this case. John Earnest pleaded guilty to all the charges against him. Today was the sentencing, and he was not afforded the opportunity to speak, but victims and those who were affected by this case certainly were. One of the first to speak Thursday morning was Lori Kay's older sister, Ellen Edwards.
What do you say in front of the person who killed my sister? I hate you. But that just doesn't seem enough. And I think you should turn around. I want to just see your face and just look in your eyes, Mr. Earnest.
After her comments, the court was informed that Earnest was not allowed to turn away from the table. He pleaded guilty to shooting and killing 60-year-old Kay and injuring 3 others, including a child, at the Chabad of Poway in April of 2019. Earnest admitted to investigators that the attack was fueled by ideas of white supremacy and hatred towards Jews. Also addressing the court was Lori's husband, Dr. Howard Kay.
True, with the loss of Lori, it's left my daughter and myself with deep loneliness, which with time gets no better.
His daughter was the last to speak. She too was at the Chabad during the shooting, recalling the last moments of her mother's life.
My mother tried to run for her life. She wanted to live another day. She wanted to survive.
Afterwards, San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan had this to say about Earnest.
And to take out the life of a defenseless, unarmed woman and to try to kill an 8-year-old child is the definition of being a coward.
John Earnest also pleaded guilty to federal charges. He's expected to be sentenced for those in December. We're reporting live at the San Diego County Courthouse. Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
And you can stay on top of any new developments with this story by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store. The NAACP is calling for the school supervisor who put his knee on the neck of a Valhalla High School student to be fired. This happened last month while that supervisor tried to break up a fight between 2 African-American girls. The district found the employee violated the district's restraint policy, but said it was a training issue and not racism. Well, tonight the NAACP said that, quote, we call on the district for the firing of that supervisor involved. We also expect that there is a review of the training records of its employees and any deficiencies discovered are remediated. The independent investigator recommended the employee get more training and be transferred. Also, today marks the last day of California's eviction moratorium. That means tenants who haven't been paying rent because of the pandemic, they could be evicted. But it doesn't mean that renters are going to be kicked to the curb. Those who've applied for the state's rental assistance program, they will still be protected through March. But San Diego attorney Gilberto Cabrera says the money is driving up in San Diego.
The concern is that the non-payment of rent protections remaining are tied to the tenant applying and having a pending rental application for rental assistance, and that the funds are available.
The Housing Commission says it's working with the mayor's office to get additional funds for rental assistance. The agency says the U.S. Treasury may reallocate some of the federal funds to help San Diego renters, but not until after October the 15th. And now to our latest COVID numbers here in the county. 12 more San Diegans lost their lives to this virus. 572 new infections were reported today. Governor Gavin Newsom signed a stack of bills today aimed at holding California law enforcement accountable. The 8 measures include raising the minimum age for officers and allowing their badges to be permanently taken away for excessive force, dishonesty, or racial bias. Newsom discussed why he says these measures are so important.
The opportunity to lead in those spaces presents itself when we sign these bills, but we have work to do. Just because you sign a piece of legislation doesn't change things fundamentally. It's the application. Program passing is not problem solving. It's the hard work that we have to do to make real the promotion and the commitments that we are advancing here today.
Some law enforcement groups opposed some of those measures, warning that they will undermine the ability of officers to keep Californians safe. And drug use among juveniles arrestees in San Diego County declined slightly last year, but is still among the record highs. Synagogue released a report today showing that 60% of those under 18 arrested in 2020, they tested positive for at least one illicit drug. It's down from 62% in 2019, but the second highest positive rate since 2000. Overall, 96% of the juveniles interviewed by Synagogue last year reported trying an illicit drug at least once. And San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria is wrapping up his trip to the nation's capital. Today, he tweeted these pictures of several meetings he had with White House officials. He spoke to the acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, Troy Miller, about issues at the border. Gloria also met with HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge about homelessness here in San Diego. This is Gloria's first trip to Washington as mayor of San Diego. He'll be back here later on tonight.